Hello, and welcome back to the Racing Riders Podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Crandall. Pretty straightforward episode this week. The guest is Cole Custer, Xfinity Series driver for Stewart-Haas Racing. Wanted to catch up with Cole to see how his development has been going in the series. This is his sophomore season, so we met up at Watkins Glen a couple weeks ago, and that was it. We chatted about how it's been going, how he learned as a driver, what the jump's been like from trucks, even running some cup cars, and just things all across the map when it comes to learning, being a young driver in NASCAR, and again, everything under the sun when it comes to that. So not a very long podcast, but I feel like it's pretty insightful to get to better know Cole and his thinking, and again, how it's going, how he's learning in the series. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Once again, I hope you're rating, reviewing. The podcast is really moving along. It's been getting a lot of attention on social media. I appreciate that. I appreciate Centire Media hosting the podcast on their network. It's been a lot of fun. This is really, really cool. So we've got some more episodes coming down the road. Again, some get-to-know episodes I've got in the can. Also got Tommy Joe Martin's waiting to be aired. So it's rolling right along. But let's get to this week's episode. Here's Cole Custer on the Racing Riders Podcast. So first of all, Mr. Cole Custer, thanks for joining us on the podcast. I think you may have underestimated the power of Twitter last night, didn't you?
Yeah, that was unfortunate for me. I didn't realize that we said a month it would take, but it took 12 hours. So that was unfortunate, but it'll be a fun Darlington.
So how did you come up with that idea? Was it just spur of the moment, or did you put any thought into, hey, this is something I want to do?
Oh, well, a couple of my friends, Eric Jones and Jesse Little, have mullets. So I was like, why not? Like, I'll just try and start growing one. And then we just put it on Twitter, and it turned out to be a hit. So, I mean, I guess I'll grow a mustache now, too. But won't be a good one, but we'll see what happens.
Can you grow a mustache? Have you ever tried?
I have. It looks really bad. But I can get there in a few weeks.
All right, so let's talk some fun stuff. Watkins Glen is a long way from California. Are you one of those guys that sometimes when you walk into a racetrack every weekend, you're like, man, how did I get here?
Usually not, honestly. I kind of just focus on the race and what's happening and what I can do and things to make us better, really. I guess that's more of kind of sitting back and smelling the flowers kind of a thing, but I don't feel like I do that too much at the racetrack. I'm more focused on what we're doing, but sometimes you do realize when you're at home, this is pretty surreal what we get to do.
What are those moments like? What do you think when you do sit down and take the time to be like, man, this is how far I've come, and pretty much in a short amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, I've been around this for a while, since I was a really little kid. So when I was a little kid, I never thought that I would ever get to this level. I thought the guys that I looked up to, all the drivers, were gods. So I never thought I'd be there. But it's pretty crazy now that you're there, and it's just surreal.
So speaking of progression, you're on pace this year for a career year after your rookie season last year. What would you say is been the biggest, I guess, factor into the step up in performance this year for you guys? It could be, I guess, as simple as, hey, just another year under your belt. Yeah,
I think the biggest thing for me and the whole team was just experience. It was, a rookie year for me and Jeff as driver and crew chief, and a rookie year for our whole team in the Xfinity Series. So just finding out, what we need to bring to the racetrack setup-wise, and what changes we want to make, and then also, what I need to do when I first hit the racetrack. I didn't know what to do. So it was just everything last year was new to us. So this year we're kind of able to sit back and look at what happened last year and kind of digest what we can do better.
So speaking of, you didn't know what to do last year, what would you say are the biggest things that you personally have been able to carry over from last year that have helped you this year?
I think one of the biggest things is just hitting the racetrack and knowing where you want to lift and how you want to carry the throttle and brake, and just being to the tracks for the first time. And then also, restarts and stuff like that, you just get more and more experience with that, and you come to the realization how to get better at it. So it's just everything, it just takes laps.
You guys, the 98's running this weekend at Watkins Glen, for instance, but for the most part, it's just you out here on any given weekend. But you have teammates. You have Tony Stewart. You have the opportunity to work for him. You have Kevin Harvick. I've heard you say in the past that you ask Kevin questions. What are some of the specifics that you're going to pick his brain about when you get the chance?
Oh, well, last year I asked him a lot of questions. This year it's not quite as much, but it's pretty much whenever I went to a new track last year, it was, where am I going to be lifting, what things to look for, just random questions throughout the track. Like here I'd ask, what curbs you want to hit and how you want to hit them, and just everything that you could think about. I'd have a whole list when I'd call him. So it's but this year now I have an idea on things. I try not to bother him too much, but he's always really open to any questions that I have.
What's the jump been like going from trucks and now second year in Xfinity? How big a step up is that?
It's pretty different. The truck series is a lot more laid back, I guess I would say, where here it's just you're trying to maximize everything you can do because you're trying to get to the cup level. So it's just you're really starting to fine tune what you're doing when you get to the Xfinity level, I feel like. But it's a lot different. I don't know how to explain it though.
Is the racing how does the racing differ between guys you're racing in trucks and then when you come up here, where a lot of the times you're competing against either veterans like an Elliott Sadler, and then of course the Cup guys come down? What has surprised you maybe about the racing? How that's changed from one series to another?
Well, I'd say guys in this series can be really aggressive, but not get them into trouble or other people into trouble. Where in the truck series, people race really hard and they get themselves into trouble. So and some of that's just because the aero side's so bad in the truck series, but it's just these guys, they can race really hard but still keep their cars in one piece. So it's tough getting to know what you can do to beat those guys because they're so smart when, just racing wise.
What about your progression as a driver? Like when you look at, again, how far you've come, what have you learned about yourself as you continue to move up the ladder? K&N, trucks, now you're in Xfinity. Do you think about kind of what you've learned along the way and kind of how you've developed as a driver, what type of driver you are?
Oh, well, I think about it all the time. Like when I was in K&N racing, I didn't know what I was doing. Like I was just out there, I just show up to the track and drive, and sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. Where, now you put so much effort into during the week looking at video and just things to look for during the weekend, things to keep in mind. So you have a whole plan set out before you even go to the racetrack as a driver. So it's just the preparation's a lot different.
This may sound like an odd question, Cole, but what is the toughest part of being a young driver, either in this series or in NASCAR? Is it learning? Is it all the stuff you have to do with being a driver, or is it something else? Is there a tough part of the job, so to speak?
I think learning is probably the biggest thing, and finding ways, especially at this level. We feel like you've gone a long ways and you've perfected a lot of different things, but then say you step up to the Cup level, you have to find a way to get better at those things. So it's just you really have to find a way to maximize your potential and do everything that you can, really.
Do you feel like you have to do it kind of almost quicker than normal? I mean, is there a normal learning period? Because it seems like nowadays you look at young guys like you look at young guys like a Eric Jones or a Christopher Bell, Daniel Swart, anybody who's continued to climb up the ladder, and it's like, okay, well, they're only going to be here for maybe 1 or 2 years, and then they're going to jump up to Xfinity or they're going to jump up to Cup. Does it feel like, from your perspective, you almost have to learn at a really quick pace?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I've learned is that this sport is really circumstantial, and people learn at different paces. So, I mean, cars are going to be different. The teams you have are going to be different. So, and as a driver, I feel like William Byron is probably the poster boy for the guy who can learn everything as fast as he can. And he's been in good situations, but he's done his job to really maximize what he can do in a short time. So, he's probably the poster child for that, I would say. So it's just trying to figure out how to, and some guys are going to need a couple of years to figure out. It doesn't mean that they're a worse driver. It just means I feel like that they need a little bit more time to figure out how to maximize their potential.
Do you feel like you're taking it at a pace you're comfortable with, that you're learning, you feel like your development is coming along the way that you would hope?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it right now. I feel like right now we're running in the top 5 and we're kind of living there, and I feel like as a team we're kind of progressing together. Now it's just figuring out how to stay up there and win races is the biggest thing. So for me to manage a race up front and be there at the end and have everything go right at the end as a driver, and then also just keeping up with adjustments and just doing everything during the race that can help us, So it's just that's where that's what we need to work on now.
You've also had a chance to jump in a Cup car twice. What's it been like now taking that leap and going from here to Cup and then back down here?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because here, I mean, you're racing about 10, maybe 15 guys, where there you're racing 25 to 30. So it's, if you're a little bit off, you're going to be 25th. So it's not easy, and you got to learn how to be better in those cars and because those guys, they race extremely hard. So they, and they're going to race you hard for 20th, and you don't want to wreck for 20th, but you have to learn how to race hard and not wreck in those cars. So it's just learning every single time you're out there.
What was your experience like in those 2 races? What were maybe some of your biggest takeaways?
Biggest thing is, those things I feel like don't handle very good in the dirty air. I feel like they're not the best. And then also, it's just getting used to a car with more motor and racing guys that have been doing it for 15, 20 years, and you got to race them just as hard as they're racing you, but try not to wreck them.
That's always good, right? So I'm curious, during the week, like from one race weekend to another, are you a type of guy who can move on pretty quickly? Are you kind of focused on the next weekend after Saturday night, Friday night is over, or does it take you a while to kind of decompress and put the notes away and then move on?
Usually a couple days. Once you get done with your notes and everything, and then you move on to the next week is when it happens. But I don't try and fixate on it too much because it's not going to do any good. But you also have to learn from it and figure out how from that situation you can get better.
So how do you, like during the week, what are you doing when you're focusing, when you're putting one weekend behind you and you're focusing on a next? What are some of the things that you do to prepare for the following week's race?
Talk with your team, talk with your crew chief about what's happening, what setup we're bringing to the next track, how it's different than last year, how different changes that we have in mind, and then also things as a driver, really just try and get yourself in the mindset of running pretty much mental laps in your head before you get to the racetrack. So you're watching tons of video and doing the simulator, just everything that you can to really hit the track the first lap and be your best.
How much do you think about racing in general?
Probably 15 hours out of the 24, and you're sleeping for 8 of it, so I don't know. It's pretty much the whole day, I would say.
And then what about during the week?
About the same.
Yeah.
That's what we do. You don't have anything else to think about, really.
So let's talk about the playoffs are fast approaching. Kind of how do you feel? You mentioned before you guys are kind of living in the top 5. How do you feel in general as the playoffs approach with this team and what you guys have got going on right now?
We have a lot of speed, and I feel like we have some consistency, and we're not tearing up cars and wild or anything like that. But it's just figuring out now how to break the barrier and get it, win a race. I think if we can find out, just hit that stride and be with the 20 car and the 22 and all them, I think we'll be able to compete with them every single weekend. But it's just right now we just have to keep living in the top 5, and we'll learn as we go.
So what are some of the tracks you look at maybe as your strengths? Are they short tracks, maybe intermediates? What do you? Again, you guys are really, really consistent. You're top 5 in points. Do you feel like you have one strength over another?
I feel like our mile and a halfs are still our strength, even from last year. And then I would say, road courses are going to be crazy. Last year I thought I was looking forward to it, and it went horrible. So we'll see. I think we have a lot of potential on the road courses that we can run good. It's just having nothing go wrong. And then short tracks, I feel like we're getting pretty good, but we're still a little bit in the learning stage. So I think we could go out there and win Bristol, but we could go out there and run top 5 again. So right. It's I think there's a lot of tracks we can break through at, though.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. When you look at, I think we're 19 races in as we talk here at Watkins Glen. So you mentioned you haven't had that win, certainly ended last year in dominant fashion. Is it kind of surprising that you guys haven't had that win, or is it, we're doing all the right things, it's just circumstance?
I feel like we're doing all the right things, it's just circumstance. I think, I don't know if I'm really surprised because I think we're running better than last year except for that one race. Every single track that we've gone to this year, we've improved, I feel like. Just that one race at Homestead, we somehow hit it out of the park. So that's our track. But I think, we've definitely made strides and gotten better this year.
All right, so we'll end it with this. When you think of the playoffs, again, they're fast approaching, and you think of the fact that, okay, you guys know you have the consistency, you're sitting top 5 in points again. Where do you go in with confidence that you guys can make a long playoff run? Like, how are you kind of eyeing up that final stretch of the season?
Well, definitely want to get playoff points. Winning stages, we won one last week at Iowa, and then getting a win, obviously, but you kind of have to be patient, like I said, and just kind of try and live in the top 5 and learn, and eventually it'll come to us, but definitely want playoff points. That's probably the biggest thing that we can focus on right now.
All right, well, thank you, Cole, and I look forward to seeing how this mullet and mustache goes. I think, so you said it took 12 hours for for the over 5,000 retweets and likes. I think when I last checked, it was like 5,500 and something retweets and like 5,300 and something likes. It just, good luck with that.
Yeah, thanks for retweeting. It really helped me out.
All right, thanks, Cole.